Sessions with Dash. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. If you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. So today's conversation, we're going to talk about therapy and introducing it to your partner, your husband, your boyfriend, or maybe you're a parent and you're trying to introduce therapy to your son. In this blog, I'm going to try to cover everything. First, I want to share pieces of my life growing up. The first time I heard the word love, my mother introduced it to me with a belt. She used to tell me, I'm only doing this because I love you. She didn't have the words to communicate. She didn't know how to articulate and create a safe environment for the word love, nor did she know how to fully express what she was trying to say. My mother parented me the way that she was parented. When we don't have the answers, when we don't have the information, sometimes we allow aggression, anger, and fear to take over. And you guys will hear me talk and communicate and share many stories about my mother. I lost my mother 2 days before Thanksgiving. So I am still currently going through the mourning process. But for those of you that has been following my journey this far, we have almost 500,000 people on Instagram. We almost have 400,000 people on TikTok. But we are finally going to make that commitment to create long form content. So you guys are going to get to know me. You guys are going to see my comedic side. I am a comedian. At least I pretend to be. Many different ways I can approach this. If you guys see me looking down, I have another device where I wrote some things down, and I want to fully unpack this conversation. So you leave with more knowledge and more wisdom, and you're allowed to navigate this conversation. And please give me your feedback. If you need a part 2, if you want to reach out to me, sessionswithdash.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. If you would like to book a one-on-one session, if you want me to create some strategies or techniques for you to have hands-on information for your own personal situation, I would love to help you and guide you through. I do charge for my one-on-one sessions. So just giving you guys the heads up with that. But let's get straight into the information. Let me share pieces of my story. I was molested at 6 years old. I was in foster homes, mental health facilities. I grew up without a father. I graduated from high school. I didn't know how to read the diploma. I struggled academically my whole life. And this created a lot of turbulence. This created a lot of anxiety. I was in survival mode my whole life. And when it comes to recovering, when it comes to healing and learning the language of mental health that allows you to become closer to yourself, I want you guys to understand, and I want you guys to acknowledge what you are witnessing. You are witnessing a man that went through that cocoon phase. I always say a fully developed man is the butterfly version of manhood. Sometimes we go through that cocoon phase and we never want to show what it looks like while we're going through the process. In the cocoon, it's dark. You're hanging upside down. You feel like you're losing yourself. You're being removed from your old environment or the environment that you know. And one of my favorite quotes, and one of the quotes that I live by: if you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. So I am speaking from the cocoon as I am still going through it. You cannot hold on and jump at the same time. So I want you guys to know that I am communicating in the air. I am communicating and I am healing. right? I call it the ing words. You cannot say you lived because you are still alive. So right now in this moment, we are all growing, healing, learning, and trying to evolve and become that person that we're trying to be, or that we at least see, that we pray for and we hope and dream that we can be this person, um, regardless of the things that we've been through, the things that we have overcame. And I want you guys to know that I am sharing from that journey. I am not perfect. I don't have all the answers. You're watching and you're witnessing a person that's healing and growing and learning right in front of you. So I am sharing this information with real time experience. I am sharing this information with anxiety, right? And this is my 10th recording. Like, so I'm going through what you're going through, right? And there's so many things that I can share and so many things that I can get into the details of. But I want you guys to be a part of this journey. So Sessions with Dash is a platform that values vulnerability, honesty, truth, right? And I want you guys to have empathy and compassion for me, empathy and compassion for the people that I bring onto this platform. We are going to grow this community and we are going to grow this channel and we are going to hear so many stories. Sessions with Dash is not about me. I want to bring people on with real stories, genuine stories, so we can all learn. I want you guys to learn from my journey. I want you guys to learn from my story. So I am genuinely sharing from an open, honest space. I am not sharing trying to be a celebrity, trying to be an influencer, trying to be someone that's getting caught up in lights, camera, action, fame. I'm genuinely here to help. I'm genuinely here learning at the same time that I am helping. And this is the version of myself that I once prayed for. Um, It's times in my life that I search for answers and I search for clarity, and I'm still searching for answers and clarity. But I am happy and I am grateful that I found a way to be a part of the solution. And you never know. You could be one day away from being a completely different person. Don't be so hard on yourself. You know, you have no idea who you're becoming. So I always say, don't judge the picture while the creator is still painting. You have no idea who you're going to be. So I am living that example. I am living that example of you have no idea who you're going to be. So that's the introduction. I know I didn't get into like real details of my life, but again, we are a family. If you guys want me to touch on any aspect or part of my life, how did I recover? How did I find a way, a solution? What's my strategies? All you have to do is give me the feedback in the comment section. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dive in. We are family, right? I may be the vessel that's communicating the messages, but I want you guys to know that we are family and we are going to build this community. And I am grateful and I am happy and I want you guys to hold me accountable. If you don't see, sometimes I get stuck on these short form platforms, and my voice needs to be heard bigger than me, right? Because I'm watching. And what I mean by that, it's a young man out there just like me, going through struggles and going through trials and tribulations. And the women that tuned in and clicked on to this video that want the insight and want the information, this is why my voice is needed. Because I'm communicating from a real experience on how I found success in my journey, how I found clarity and closure, and I am happy and I am honored and I am grateful to share the information with you guys. So let's get into it, right? Let's get into it. First and foremost, this is something that I like to introduce. Therapy is not a punishment. So unfortunately, sometime the first time men continue to hear therapy, it's because how someone want you to show up for them. So if you think about yourself first before you're thinking about your partner, I want you to truly take your time to think about what you're saying. Because you're not saying that it's about your husband or your boyfriend being better for himself, but you want him to be better and work on himself for you. So you always shut down. You're always screaming. You're always yelling. You keep doing the same thing. You need to go to therapy. See, that's why you need to go to therapy. If he continue to hear it over and over and over and over and over, like it's a punishment, you're not communicating therapy with love. Mental health is beautiful. Therapy is beautiful. I always say healing is allowing your mind to catch up with your heart. Sometimes we go through painful experiences and we never want to feel that pain again. So we shut down. We become cold. We become numb, and we're running away from that reflection of ourselves. We're running away from the work. And again, responsibility. The two words in responsibility is respond and ability. So a man cannot respond to the information that he don't have. A man cannot respond to the insight that he don't have. When I grew up, again, first time my mother introduced love to me was with a belt. I love you, so this is why I am hitting you. She wasn't saying this is why she was hitting me. She was saying I'm doing this because I love you and I want you to behave. And my mother didn't have the answers. So she created an action to quote unquote make me act right and make me behave. So think about it. Love was introduced to me with a belt. Affection was introduced to me with a belt. I was never allowed to be vulnerable. I was never provided a safe space. So the first time I heard love and the first time, well, outside of my mother, when I was learning love and when I was learning, like when I was 19, 20, and a young lady said, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you open up? Why are you afraid to communicate?" So when we talk about responsibility and responding to my ability, if I never learned love, if I never learned how to open up, if I never learned how to speak, if I never learned how to balance myself and find a confidence, and if I was never provided a safe space to feel safe enough to communicate, this is why I'm going to shut down. This is why your husband is going to shut down. This is why your boyfriend is going to shut down. And it's understanding that you have to create the right environment. You have to communicate therapy in a way where your husband hear it as love, not as a prison, not as a punishment. You are not doing this the correct way, so this is why you need to go to therapy. And now it's communicated in a negative way that's creating a shutdown, right? So again, I want you guys to know when I'm looking down, there's some things that I wrote down and I want you guys to understand, right? So if I said, 10 encouraging ways, and I'm gonna talk through some of these things just to give you guys some insight, to share some perspective. So get your notebooks out, your phone, however you jot down the information. So understanding why he may resist therapy. Number one, right? So write that down. Number one, why he may resist therapy. Okay. Many men see therapy as a sign of weakness, failure, or something only broken people need. Um, my relationship with therapy, because I was in front of therapists since I was 5 years old, and that's why I had negative energy, and I hated therapy because it always made me feel like I wasn't okay. It always made me feel like someone was saying that something is wrong with me. Like, so because I had negative interactions when I was in foster homes and mental health facilities, and I remember being behind the glass and people with a clipboard, and I was always triggered back into that environment, and it made me feel the way that I felt. So it was always a disconnection, and it was always a negative energy, and I always resisted therapy from that perspective. So I want you to take the time to think or to have the conversation and to genuinely let your husband or your boyfriend unpack why he feels the way about therapy that he does, and why is he communicating it in a negative way. So outside of making sure that you communicate it the proper way and not as a punishment, you have to do this because you're not doing this right and you need to do this. But if you're not communicating it with love, you have to understand that's why he's shutting down. Okay. Some fear being judged or misunderstood. Others don't believe therapy works, or they don't think that it can fix anything. Understanding these hesitations can help you approach the conversation with empathy instead of frustration, right? So if you understand that it has nothing to do with you or the relationship and that you need to change the approach, you need to change the approach. You need to make sure that you are providing a safe environment. You need to make sure that you are introducing therapy with love. I want you to think about it. Outside of television, movies, if you never actually sat down and had therapy, and based on the person that you're conducting, or the therapist or the psychologist, and who you sit down with, you'll have um, the misconception, or you'll be judging it from your point of view without actually ever experiencing it. So if you are creating this picture of therapy, I want you to think about the way that you're communicating. How are you communicating therapy? How are you talking about therapy? And and I want you to think about how he is hearing it. I always say, if you have a message and it don't reach the people that need it, then your message don't exist. And your words only mean what they mean to you until they hit the next person's ears. So if he only hear therapy as a punishment, why would he feel safe? Why would he feel like it's going to help? Why would he feel connected to therapy in a loving way if he consistently hear therapy in a negative way? Okay. Number two, create a safe space, a judgment-free environment. Men are more likely to open up when they feel safe and not criticized. So again, you're doing this. You're just like your father here, or whenever you create that negative environment, whenever communicating and speaking from a negative place, he's going to shut down. He's going to become distant. He's going to avoid the conversation. He's going to run from the conversation. So you have to understand that you have to create the safe space. Avoid making him feel like he's broken or need to be fixed. Frame therapy as a strength, not a weakness. Empathize that it's about growth, not failure, right? You take your car to the mechanic, oil change, tune up, rotating the tires or whatever the case. A vehicle, we have a destination in mind. And for the most part, when you get into your car, you want to go to your destination. So the maintenance for a vehicle, we get an oil change before the car, right? We take the car to the mechanic before the car breaks down and have damage. Don't wait for the breakdown. Don't wait for the breakup. Don't wait for the divorce. Don't wait for the disagreement, you know, before you start communicating why therapy is necessary. Create the positive conversation. Create this positive flow of communicating and understanding where he is communicating from. Okay? Number three, lead with love, not entitlement. Saying you need to go to therapy or else will likely make him shut down. Instead, express how much you love him and that therapy is about supporting him, not changing him. Make it clear that you're in this together, right? So, team, you're doing this together. We are going to therapy. I want you to feel safe. I want you to know that you can open up and share anything. Give them time, give them space. I always say you can't throw a caterpillar in the air and force it to fly. Growth takes time, right? No matter what you do, it's a transition. They call that the cocoon phase. And in that cocoon, it's a transformation that's taking place. That caterpillar is developing wings. And I always say, a boy with a low self-esteem grows to be a man with no self-esteem. So understanding that it's a development, it's a transition that takes place before the evolution, and we don't control the evolution. Show up with love. Water your husband, water your boyfriend. Give him the time, attention, and affection that he needs, but don't think that you own the outcome, and don't think that he will change and grow just because you're doing everything that you feel like you're doing. It takes time. So even if you are on your own healing journey and growing and learning, it took you time to become the person that you are today. I'm still healing. I'm still growing. And this is years and years and years of downloading information, finding strategies, learning myself, learning how to communicate, learning how to cry, right? It's something called the 2190 rule. It takes 21 days to create a new habit. It takes 90 days for that habit to become a behavior. So it takes time. We don't own growth. You want to make sure that you can hold space for your partner, your boyfriend, your husband. Make sure that you can hold space. Just because you're there, that don't mean that you're there. Being there is being supportive. Being there is being kind. Being there is caring, not insulting, not belittling, not rushing, not creating chaos, not being argumentative. Holding space is understanding that he is going through a struggle. Emotional intelligence is like any other level of intelligence. If I'm struggling academically and you're an author and you want me to read your book and you're mad, like, okay, why you're not, why, like, I gave you the book, why don't you read it? It's not that I don't want to read it. I am struggling. You're witnessing your husband struggle, your boyfriend struggle. How do you introduce love? How do you show up and give him the time, attention, even though you're not seeing what you want to see in the moment, right? And understanding that part sometimes is the breakthrough that we need. You can't rush it, especially when it comes to childhood trauma and when it comes to understanding that your husband or your boyfriend probably been through things that they don't know how to communicate. So I was molested on my way to school. I didn't know how to come home and tell my mother. My mother used to beat me every time I cried. I went to school the whole day. Think about it. 6 years old. I went to school the whole day. Didn't tell my teachers, didn't tell my mother, didn't tell my sisters. The first time I told someone, I was 24 years old, where I told my son's mother. And it was the most painful thing ever. And it still took me about 9 to 10 more years before I actually connected to those words and started to change something. I didn't come out right away and was all of a sudden ready to deal with it. I had to find a balance and a safe space within myself before I started to deal with what I communicated and said out in the words that I said out loud. So many things that we go through is so many things that we have to learn how to connect and engage and be able to see ourselves to understand that we need help. Sometimes we don't understand why we're so heavy. We don't understand that we're creating a walking volcano. And for the men out there, I want you to know that it's okay to speak up. I want you to know that it's okay to work on yourself. I want you to know that it's okay to go to therapy. I want you to know that it's okay to open up, to talk and share. Just because your mother or the environment didn't provide a safe space, if your wife or your girlfriend is providing a safe space and you genuinely feel safe and they're genuinely holding space for you, I want you to know that it's okay to open up. It's the only way that you will change. It's the only way that you will grow. Meet them halfway. If you don't want to share everything, share a little. Take it step by step. If you're not comfortable sharing with another person, you can start recording in your phone. Treat your phone like a therapist. Treat your phone because when it comes to the nervous system and when it comes to talking, like, because it wasn't about the fact that I told my son's mother, it was the fact that I said those words out loud. When it comes to trauma, trauma is like music, and trauma stores the feelings, the emotion. Like when I thought about being molested, it took me back to the environment. It took me back to the space. Just like when we think of our favorite song, or you think about the song that you got married to, or you think about the song that your mother used to play. Whenever I hear songs that my mother used to listen to, it takes me right back to those moments. And I want you guys to understand that it's all about balancing your nervous system. So when I say utilize the phone to express yourself, to record yourself, I want you to see yourself as you communicate. I want you to see yourself as you open up. That's how I started this journey. Some people journal, right? I journal digitally. I took notes. I started to break down and write down why did I cry right there? Why did I make that facial expression? And then I would unpack. I would take the time to think about what that moment meant to me. The moment that I broke down and I cried and I allowed myself to dive deeper into my journey. Okay. So okay, I think that was number 4. Highlight therapy as a tool of strength, not weakness. That was number 4. Number 5, normalize therapy through positive examples. Share stories of success. Strong men who openly go to therapy, right? You can show him this video. How I'm talking about some of the things that I went through and how understanding therapy is mental and emotional maintenance. Mental health. Are you mentally healthy? Right? That's it. Right? Because it was so many things I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. And understanding that, those small steps to take the time to say, hey, I don't need to continue to show up the way that my environment taught me to. I don't need to show up and continue to act like I'm in my household environment. Yes, my mother made me afraid to cry and never provided a safe space. But I'm a grown man now, and I can create that safety, and I can create that environment to say that it's okay to share, it's okay to open up, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to feel. Emotion is energy in motion. You don't have to walk around like a walking volcano, being afraid to talk and open up and share the things that you've been through. Okay. If you go into therapy yourself, share how it helped you. Suggest a podcast, books, or interviews with men who benefited from therapy. Okay? So normalize therapy through positive examples. Number 6, offer offer to go together. Sometimes the fear of being alone um in the therapeutic process. A couples therapy session could be an easy way to introduce therapy in a whole. Showing him that we are doing this together, and being supportive and being an example and opening up and sharing your story. So when I say if you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, right? If you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. So sometime people are in 20-year relationships, 10-year relationships, and you don't know your partner on a soul level. You're attracted to them, you like them as a businessman, as a father, but they never felt safe enough to truly open up and share everything and communicate to you like they're communicating and going through their own memory, right? So when we create that safe space, when we create that opening, right, and you use yourself. So even me, like when I tell you guys, I'm sharing my story, I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable. Even in this piece of content, I'm opening up and I'm sharing like I'm in a therapy session. So that's why it's called Sessions with Dash. I am the vessel that's communicating, and I want you guys to understand that it's okay. I'm not telling you that you have to record yourself and put yourself out there like me. Um, Start where you are. Communicate from where you are. If we can do that today, that is a milestone. Okay? So, okay, number 7, start small. Start small. Introduce therapy in simple ways, simple steps. Instead of pushing a full commitment, suggest trying one session and deciding from there. One session. One session, right? You can start with me. Sessionswithdash.com. That's why I advocate for mental health from a therapist, psychologist side, and also the person that's been sitting in front of therapists since I was 4 years old. afraid, with anger and fear. And I'm honored to be the bridge, right? So if you're afraid of therapy and you don't want to sit in front of someone, we can do it over a phone call. We can do it over a FaceTime, a Zoom, and I could communicate what you can expect. And let me know if you guys want me to create a piece of content of what you can expect, what you should expect, how to ask the proper questions, what to look for. Okay, we are going to build this family, guys. We're going to build this family. Even just talking to a therapist online first can ease the process, right? So do a consultation. Okay, we'll get there. Number 8, be patient. Be patient. Let him have control. Men don't like feeling forced. Give him space to process the idea. Let him research therapists he liked or feel comfortable with. Offer to help the logistics and finding options and setting an appointment, but let him make the final decision. Okay, like don't push, don't give a timeline. Like create the safe environment. Create the safe environment. Create a safe space. Hold space. And as long as the communication is there, that's the first thing that you want. That's the first step. Even if he's willing to open up to you, don't put pressure on him. Don't make him feel rushed. And also, again, control the environment. If he gets overwhelmed, if he's hanging up on the phone, every time you open up in the house, he get up, he walks away, right? Create an environment. Take him out to eat. Take him to the movies. Take him to a basketball game. Whatever you can do to make him feel safe. Start asking different questions in different ways, right? So even if it's one area, if you want to know about his childhood, but he never opened up, just ask him about his friends. Ask him about his family. Ask him if it's okay for you to ask his family. Ask his mother. Ask his brothers. What's his story? What's his family story? So it's many different ways that you can approach um, the conversation. Address the stigma. Address the stigma around therapy head on. Many men grow up in environments where emotional expression was discouraged. Let him know that seeking help doesn't make him weak, it makes him wise. Therapy isn't just for crisis, it's a tool to better communicate stress, relief, and emotional strength, right? So those are the things that I communicated. I communicated my household environment, how my mother would beat me, my mother would beat me until I stopped crying. So I want you guys to research neurological pathways, right? Neurological pathways is literally how your brain wire itself based on your behavior. So imagine being a little kid forcing yourself to stop crying. Now my brain is wired to not cry. So that's why as a grown man, I had to learn how to cry. I had to learn how to cry because my body was wired. Like I lost my friends. It was so many things that happened in my childhood that I didn't even know how to feel. And I didn't feel, I didn't process them. And I'm processing them as a grown man, right? Because that trauma stores in the body. And this is why he's so overwhelmed. This is why he explodes. This is why, he goes through that level of frustration in the moment because he never had a safe space for those feelings and emotions and for that anger that lives inside of him. So that's why the smallest thing and the smallest conversation he explodes because it's already stored in his body. So understanding neurological pathways, understanding wiring your brain, the same way, like I always say, technology mimics human behavior. The same way we have a digital algorithm, we have like our physical, mental, and emotional algorithm. And the same way you go to Facebook and Instagram and your explore page are things that you search and things that you look for, your habits, your mindset, your routine, that's literally your neurological pathways. So we have to rewire our brain around the conversations of mental health. And you have to understand that that's the process that has to take place when it comes to learning and reconnecting, learning, unlearning, and learning again, right? Okay, so number 10, reassure him that you're not going anywhere. Some men avoid therapy because they feel um, exposing too much, I don't know what I wrote there. Exposing too much is losing respect, right? So some men were in situations where their vulnerability was used against them. I need to go get some water, but okay. Because their past relationship, let's say they had a person that every time they cried or every time they tried to express themselves, it was used against them. Oh, look at you crying, you soft, you're a coward. Um, or they communicated something that took place in their childhood, and now that situation was thrown in their face. And now they chose to never open up again. I'm never going to open up again because someone used it against me, or someone made me feel small because of the pain or because of the situation that I've been through. So I want you to know that, you being the wife, the girlfriend that's trying to provide the safe space, I want you to know that when your husband decides to share, never, ever, 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 ever use his vulnerability, his story, his pain, and the things that he's been through against him. That is the fastest way to make him shut down and never open up, right? Because he's going to associate you, the therapist, and everyone else with his childhood, his past relationships, and that's the fastest way that you will never ever get a man to open up and express himself, if you use his story, his pain, his plight against him. So I want you to understand that, giving him the reassurance that you're not going anywhere, regardless of what he shares and what he opens up to and what he communicates, that you were there. Okay? So remind him that your love isn't conditional. Let him know that no matter what comes up in therapy, you'll support him through it. That is my spiel. Please, guys, Sessions with Dash, spread the word. I want you guys to hold me accountable. So if you find value in this conversation, I want you guys to know that I get stuck on Instagram and TikTok and just creating these platforms. Well, I'm just creating content on these platforms because this is where I created and built my audience first. So sometimes going through the building process all over. And again, the long form content is different, because again, you guys are sitting with me for a longer period of time. But if you find value in this content, I want you guys to hold me accountable. Let's go, Dash. Send me messages. This was so helpful. I loved it. I want you to do a part 2. I want you to touch on this. Let me know the conversations that you want me to talk about, whether it's my personal life, my childhood. Let me know. I'm gonna interview. I want to interview like 100 therapists, psychologists, doctors, people with positive stories. We're going to get to work this year. Okay. So we're going to build this channel. Who knows where we're going to take it. Okay. But I want you guys to hold me accountable. You guys are not my fans, right? You guys are my supporters, and you guys are family. Sessionswith-dash.com if you would like to book a one-on-one session. If you want to help me with this journey, let's go. Let's go. Let's grow. You can't hold on and jump at the same time. So hopefully I shared something that inspired you to share, inspired you to change, inspired you to look in the mirror and see yourself differently. We are all growing. We are all changing. We are all evolving. You have to meet yourself halfway. Okay? So if you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. Sessions with Dash.